Hey guys, welcome to the stream. Simon from Redline Motorsports. Today we have got the Porsche Cup. This was supposed to be a big grid, but I think we've actually only got 30 cars on the track. We've got the other 50 in another split, unfortunately. But yeah, it's going to be myself commentating tonight along with Jesse. How are we doing, Jesse?
Hello, Simon. I am fantastic, and I am ready to see some crazy Porsche action around the mountain.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm also here with George. How are we doing, George, from South Africa?
Yeah, how's it, Simon? How's it, Jesse? Glad to be with you guys, and also excited to see what these Cup cars do at such an epic track tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got 30 minutes of qualifying to go, and then we've got a 75-minute race. Just to let you know, we are obviously at Bathurst today, so track temps at the moment is 56 degrees Celsius, so this is going to be putting in some interesting pit strategies for sure. Although there's no pit stop, I can't see the tyres lasting 75 minutes for sure. Not at 56 degrees, that's for sure. What's your thoughts on that, George?
Yeah, I just want to say that I get upset when the temperatures go over 34 degrees when I'm racing. So to me, this is going to be cooking. It's going to be hot. It's going to definitely, it's going to make for some interesting, not only just the qualifying positions, I think. It's going to make for some interesting real race results here because, how do your pit strategies play out? I believe we don't have a mandatory pit stop, right? So it's up to them to decide what they want to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's like you said, it's pretty going to be down to some may actually have managed 75 minutes on absolutely cooking tyres. So, I mean, the Porsche Cup themselves are, a handful enough as it is, especially at Bathurst here as well. And obviously with the temperatures, 56 degrees track temperatures, tyres are going to be literally like, I think like you mentioned earlier on, George, it's going to be literally like driving slicks in the wet. That's the only way you can probably put it. So yeah, we're going to be in for some interesting action for sure with these. But as for time wise, during the practice session we were down to the 2:05, so still pretty quick for the Porsche Cup cars. Jesse, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm just going to echo everything that you guys have said about the tires. You might as well slather them in Vegemite for all. See, I'm being local here. For all it's going to matter, if it stays this warm, it is going to be positively sliding around. And these Porsche Cup cars do that enough by themselves. But all that's really going to do is, well, it's going to, one, frustrate these drivers, but it's going to make it really interesting for us all to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so they're going to start their warm-up lap now. So looks like Zeman will be the first to, Zeman will be the first to get his hot lap in. So we'll stay with him for a moment. So what I'll probably do, I'll probably jump on board with him at the moment, so we can get a bit of on-board footage from him when he starts his hot lap shortly. George, would you like to run us through a trap guide of this? Would it be possible?
Yeah, we most certainly can run through a little track guide for you.
Lovely, thank you.
So obviously, this track just, it really does push drivers to the limit. He's going to go around to start his flying lap now. Of course, a lot of straightaways in the start of the track, down on the brakes as well, before you then get another long straightaway section. Of course, these Porsche Cup cars, they can just roar along and get their revs all the way up. Obviously, that sixth gear whine that we love to hear in these cars. Of course, this is pretty much the easiest part of the track before they start making their way up towards the mountain. Things start to narrow around, gearing down again for this right-hander. Of course, when more cars are around, it's going to be even more hair-raising. Just look how narrow things become as the track just disappears around you as the elevation increases. You just make your way up, and these cars are just on the edge of the traction limit the entire time. I mean, Porsches are already not great at throwing their weight from left to right, but here you make your way down and you kind of like plateau here. You get a little bit of a breathing space before you suddenly make your way to Skyline, where the track just drops away in front of you, and it's back onto those brakes again as you make your way through the S's, and the track just drops away below you before, you just, I can't really describe it. You know, you have to really drive it to feel it. And I think these drivers will really feel it before, again, you get another breakaway straight on Conrad where you can just like hammer it. And really, I think that the last corner here, the right-hander, is actually one of the fastest corners that you will find in GT3 racing. You just take it flat out. I'm sure you do the same in the Porsche Cup cars. I tried a couple of laps going around here, and I must be honest, it was frustrating me a little bit too much. I had to go back to my GT3 car. So I take my hats off to all these guys. I mean, you're not at the end of the circuit just yet. You finally make your way down. Again, we say this, you back on the brakes before, and this corner here, you can just lose some time as well. So to me, definitely an interesting track. And yeah, Zeman there, you know, it's, to me, a difficult track to really pick out where drivers are going to make mistakes. I think we'll see it when more drivers get onto track. But these cars will feel like they're sliding all around. And if they look like they're sliding, I really do feel like those track temperatures are playing up.
Yeah, absolutely there, George. So at the moment, it looks like Chris Hokie has got the fastest lap of the race. I will actually put the timings on the screen if it will do that for you. So Chris Hokie currently with 2:05.2, so 5 tenths quicker than Jardia in P2 at the moment, so not too bad. So Jesse, is there anything you're expecting today at Bathurst with these Porsche Cup cars?
The only thing that I'm expecting today, Simon, is to expect the unexpected. This is incredibly close quarters racing. We have 30 plus Porsche Cup cars, and folks at home, if you haven't ever done it yourself, I implore you, take the Porsche Cup car, take it here, and see just how hard it is to be fast around here. This is not like a GT3 car. It has a lot of similarities, but a lot of differences as well. Driving this thing around here, in my experience, is difficult enough, let alone trying to be as quick as Chris Hokie has been so far. And now we see Matt Samuel jumps up to the second spot. But as we follow along with the number 26 Porsche, Wolf Matuszka, in that very pink livery, I have a feeling that he might be jumping well up the board. I don't know if it'll be enough for first, but we'll see. As he comes across the line, he is 10th. He's slotted. Oh no, he hasn't slotted in there. I think the
tool, he invalidated.
He invalidated.
Oh. But yes, I absolutely think that these cars are fantastic. But what am I specifically looking for here? Well, it was a hotly contested practice session where a lot of big name drivers such as Chris Hokie, Matt Samuel, Jardier, Darren King, and the lot were all fighting and were within striking distance of the fastest lap and being king of the mountain today. And I think that's going to spill over into qualifying and yet again into this race.
Yeah, no, 100% there, Jesse, so it's pretty spot on there. Like I said, track temperature is still 56 degrees, so yeah, I imagine people are going to be having to pit for tyres at some point in the race because, yeah, tyres are really going to degrade over this time with these sort of track temperatures. But then I guess they're used to this over in Australia. So
yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the right temperature and very fitting for what they would probably be used to there. So taking the simulation things to the maximum, really, and definitely going to be pushing all the drivers to their limits. I'm pretty excited to see just how the action unfolds when drivers start racing for position. Obviously, we've got quite a long qualifying session here, which I think is interesting in itself because it almost becomes a little bit like a quick little hot lapping session. So guys that are quick hot lappers and good at doing that have quite a lot of time to sort of become accustomed to the track conditions and really set themselves up for a good grid. The guys that don't like hot lapping and are more consistent are probably wishing for a more shootout styled quali and get themselves up there knowing that, you know, their consistency would help them out. So I kind of like the fact that we do have a little bit of a longer qualifying session here that you know, it changes things up a little bit more, and you just see Steven Wust on the edge of the traction limits as he just runs out a little bit wide, and you can see these Porsches are just willing to kick out like mules at any given moment.
Yeah, absolutely there, George. If you just have a quick look at that channel there, George, just see if we can just get that fixed for you. But yeah, me and Jesse will just carry on for a second. Hopefully we can get the mic issue fixed. But otherwise, so looking at the times at the moment, so we're down to We're at the top 10 at the moment, within 1 second off the pace at the moment. So top 20 within 1.9 seconds. So still early on, still got 21 minutes of qualifying. So quite a long qualifying for this. So yeah, times will definitely change as things continue. But light clouds is what we're looking at. So there's definitely not going to be any rain in this. So we see one of the Porsches there in the gravel trap. So. And also we're getting some flames from the exhaust there from our rear camera, so looking pretty awesome there. So yeah, Jesse, is there any expectations you think, and have you got any sort of ideas who's going to be taking this race today? Putting you right on the spot now, aren't I?
No, but that's completely all right, because I would say, typically speaking, I would say yes, I would have a very general idea of who I thought could win this race, but unfortunately today, based on my previous comments, I don't think I can, because Vicky Thompson went to the top of the board, and then so did Wolf Matushka, who now has set a lap that was not invalidated. It was good enough to be at the top, a 2-minute 4.82, as we continue to run around with Rust at the moment. But no, I don't have a single clue who is going to win this race. I know a lot of drivers that could. I mean, you could argue anybody in this field could win this. I think that it's going to be whoever is the cleanest today. But honestly, Simon, I just don't really know.
I mean, I've just noticed, actually, we've got Matt Samuel in here, actually, one of the drift drivers, so real-life drift drivers here, in P9 at the moment, so I didn't actually realise he signed up to this today, so that's quite a privilege to have him involved today. But yeah, no, like I said, with the names we've got on the board at the moment, you know, we've got some very, very quick drivers here, so like I say, a lot's going to happen at the moment. So looking now, we're almost around P30 now, about 1.1 seconds off the pace, so yeah, it's going to be definitely interesting to see what these guys are going to be being able to do here. So yeah, Matt Samuel at the moment is just under 7/10 off the pace. I mean, it looks like Wolfman Tiska has taken a 2:04.8, so he's the first to actually get into the 2:04s. So that's pretty awesome to see there, I believe. Or is that, let me just double check his time. Oh no, sorry, P2 is in the it's literally 11th hundredths of a second into the 2:04s there actually. So yeah, 2 people are currently in the 2:04, so that's pretty awesome stuff. I don't know about you, Jesse, but in a normal GT3 car with all the aero, could you actually even get a 2:04 in that?
I actually don't know. I think George would be better to ask. I think you can, but there's something about these Porsche Cup cars. Maybe it is the lack of aero down the straight that helps them. I know the Super Trofeo car has a definite advantage on certain tracks with its low to no aero, depending on how much you decide to run. It actually embarrasses a lot, if not all, the GT3s down the straightaway. George, do you have any insight about the relative pace between the Cup car and a GT3?
I mean, the GT3 car, probably in their hands, you know, these drivers driving them would be most certainly quicker. I think for us as commentators and, you know, casual sim racers, I'm excluding Simon. We know that Simon is a professional. He wins his Monday races. But Jesse and I, we would probably struggle to get 2:04s in the GT3 version of this car. So these guys are definitely pushing the limits, and it's pretty impressive to see just how hard they are pushing.
Yeah, so I mean, one of my questions to you, Jesse, was actually, I mean, so I know the GT3 times, you know, you can get into the 158s. I mean, this is when Bathurst first came out, so I'm guessing about the 158 steel, 159s is around the times you get. So I'm just literally just asking you yourself, are you even capable of even doing a 2:04 in a GT3 car? Yeah, that's what I was trying to get.
Well, I'm going to ignore the fact that was slightly, you know...
Subtle shade. Subtle shade.
Yeah, you know, trust me, on a 44 degree Celsius day around here, I'm not going to complain about being able to be sat in shade, but I'm going to very sharply ignore what you're saying. I'm just going to say that, yes, I can do about a 2:02 around this joint, but that's about as quick as I can get. In these cars, I'd probably be in the wall before I made it to turn 1.
Yeah, absolutely there. So, yeah, George, just want to test your mic, actually, see if everything's fixed now since you've just seen that.
Yeah, is it sounding better at the moment if I talk for you at the moment?
Yeah,
just looking at Christian Veal.
For me, it's definitely not popping, so all good here. I'll wait for the chat to say.
Okay, well, so far so good. Hopefully, we don't have those kind of errors because I'm not sure how to actually resolve them. They just seem to
No, I think that was
broadcast things.
yeah. Unfortunately, like I said, we're not in a our own sort of studio to obviously broadcast things. We are obviously at home, and obviously we rely very much on the internet and third-party applications to obviously do these streams. So yeah, I think it was just a minor Discord issue. But no, your mic's definitely sound coming through. Everyone else is in the chat saying it is good there. So glad to see that's all working there for you, George. So
Yeah,
right.
and also to just answer back on Jesse was asking just about some of the differences here. I mean, I think these Porsche Cup cars down the straights might actually top out quite close to the GT3s, even maybe getting past them. I mean, I know that they really do excel on the top end side of things. So I would be interested to see. I've never kind of drag raced them here and never really gauged their top end speeds, but it would be really interesting to see. I do know that as they go through places like the dipper there, as we watch this front end splitter cam of Chris Hooker making his way down the mountain, you know, the dipper in these Porsche Cup cars is going to be a hella interesting corner, as will pretty much the whole of Bathurst when things kick off in 15 minutes. It's going to be an interesting ride and 75 minutes of pure bliss because we've got a whole field of Porsches. And as you guys both know, I'm a big Porsche fan.
That's interesting. You should mention that because I don't think you've ever mentioned that ever before in any of the broadcasts we've ever done together, George. I kid, of course. And just as we talk about the Porsche Cup cars some more, you'll be happy to know that a Porsche Cup car is now on the pole, George. Of course, I'm kidding. I'm not kidding in the same way. Samir Ibrahimi has taken his car to the pole position. And just as I say that, he had a new challenger. That's Malinowski has taken his car to second place. He's retaken that from Wolf Matushka. Samir Ibrahimi did a 2-minute 4.6, and that's to the 992's lap of a 2-minute 4.7. So very little in it between the two of them. Honestly, between the two of them, I should say between the three of them, because Wolf Matushka did a 204.8. So this is exactly what I expected to see as we have 14 minutes left here in the qualifying session. I expected to see a lot of cars really close together. And guys, when there's a 10th in it, you're not getting away from that car on the straightaways. They're going to be able to pull right back up to you.
This is it. Oh, sorry, George, you carry on.
Oh yeah, no, I was gonna say, you know, it's close, and you know, a long quali session does allow guys to push things to beyond what you know, maybe some of their race pace might be. They might dial it in and get to there, but yeah, long quali sessions really do benefit. Like I've said before, the hot lappers, and I like to see those times fall, but it doesn't indicate what the race will be. And just, I mean, we get a little shot here as we look at Axel Petit just roaring around the mountain here. That beautiful livery, quite striking, in fact. I'm a fan of liveries as well, if you haven't picked up on that. Colors on cars, big fan. And I feel like sometimes our simulation liveries can actually trump some of the real life liveries that we get. But I mean, what a shot. As you see, we're going to get a taste of just what some of these Porsche Cup cars look like coming around, and some of the camera angles that will capture some of the action that we'll see unfold as the race gets to us. But a very busy quali session. Of course, plenty of cars on the grid, 32 Cup cars racing around. And yeah, it's going to be busy out there, and trying to find some place to set yourself a good quali time is always going to be difficult. Always good to make way for other drivers if you have, you know, not made. Ooh, a little clipping, I think, there, as Axel Petit may have sent that poor Porsche off to the outside realm. Difficult to call from here, but it's difficult to set a quali lap at Bathurst. It's difficult to do so on a full grid, and it's difficult to try and stay competitive with such big names that we see here tonight. I mean, that always excites me, reading down a list of drivers and just seeing big names, knowing that going into the race, you're going to get like a race that doesn't just have, you know, dirty driving and those kind of things. It's going to be good, clean, honest racing, and some really big names in this pro split. I can't wait.
Yeah, and certainly to your point, George, I mean, a lot of these guys, I would say at minimum a third of the field here today were in action in a very different sort of way on Friday here at RLM. Not even talking about what they were doing over the weekend. Some of these drivers, in fact, at least 5 of them that I can name off the top of my head, were in action less than 24 hours ago in the 1.45 hour of Hungaroring, which was an event that we did as well. I mean, I love it, and I talked about this off air before we got started, but the Darren Kings, you know, of the world, and everybody else as well that come out to do this event, they're like, oh, you know, a big Porsche Cup event around the mountain, sure, we'll do that on a Monday night. I love the attitude of these sim racers. They're like, if there is a race, we will be there, and that's sort of how this event came about. It came about as some people wanted this sort of event. They thought, hey, how interesting would it be to have a large grid of Porsche Cup cars go around Mount Panorama? Wouldn't that be interesting? And the folks at RLM, the admins over here, was like, yeah, that would be interesting, so let's do it. And that's how we got here today, in case anyone was wondering. And out of curiosity, a lot of these drivers who are here today, of course, some of these were the ones that were calling for it, very interested. And I will be right back, gentlemen.
Absolutely.
Cool.
No worries,
So,
Jesse. Just want to jump in there quickly as well. Wolf, at the moment, Matisco is currently up by 2 tenths, so he could end up getting onto pole here. I'm just waiting for the relatives to update. It was 2 tenths, but it's gone blank for a second. So we'll see if he can actually get pole. So it's just come back on the screen. He is about 0.1 now, so it's going to be very touch and go. But we will stay with him until he comes around the final corner.
Might find second place here if he doesn't better his time for pole. Definitely up a 10th. Does Wolf do it? And he doesn't. He stays in third place. It looks like, to me, Wolf Matrushka doesn't better his time. I think I wanted to just touch on some of those things that Jesse was saying as well. I think it's just amazing that so many of these drivers come out here to do something like a big fun Porsche big grid event. 32 cars, you might think, you know, you've seen bigger, but 32 pro driver cars on a track like Bathurst is a big grid event. And a lot of them don't main the Porsche GT3 car, and they will come out and, you know, risk it all and try out what is most arguably the difficult, you know, section of the ACC game, is the Cup cars and the Super Trofeos. We saw Darren King earlier on the screen. I mean, we saw him doing some monster overtakes in the Super Trofeo Cup race that we hosted. So yeah, I'm interested to see what guys do. We currently follow on board with a rear-facing cam from Zahir S's car, another driver that I'm glad to see here. You mentioned that we had a real-life drift racer here, and we've got a real-life racing driver from South Africa, or ex-racing driver. I think Zahir hasn't raced in a while, but yeah, he featured here in the real driver races as well, and of course coming and throwing around in the Porsche Cup car now. I'm pretty excited to see what he can do, and of course in a striking livery which very much resembles our South African colors too. So if you see a little bit of bias here, we've got some you know, a little bit of bias coming out here from the perhaps South African flavored Porsche Cup car, Simon.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm just looking at the relatives at the moment. So we're down to P18, under 1 second off the pace. This is getting pretty impressive now. Yeah, so just wanted to obviously elaborate on the big grid stuff. So we have got a big grid race at the moment running alongside this, which isn't going to be streamed, unfortunately. There is 50 cars in that race at the moment. We do open up a second split for the pro drivers. And I said we've got 33 cars in it, I believe it was now. But I think the reason for that is Porsche Cup, 50 cars at Bathurst. I think it's going to be absolute chaos. So I think dropping it down to, you know, we did actually drop it down to 40 cars, and I think so we've only got 33 in it at the moment. So I think a lot of people wanted to sign up, realise that these cars are you know, a handful for sure, especially these track temperatures as well. As I say, 55 degrees track temperatures at the moment. So yeah, aim for the faint-hearted for sure. So it's definitely going to be testing some of these drivers' skills today. So yeah, hopefully. It shouldn't be too of a bad race, should I say. Looking at the times, I mean, we're down to 2:04.6 with Samir currently taking P1 at the moment. So, yeah, I don't know, George. I mean, what are you really expecting from this race? It's Porsche Cup, it's Bathurst, And we just see one of the cars almost drifting around the corner then.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we'll talk about drifting as well. I'm a big fan of the oversteer nation. And, these cup cars stepping out, I think, gives a real sort of style element to the driving element. I think that we are on a sort of, I don't want to curse anything, but I think we've got quite an interesting race ahead of us. And I think that we're going to get some great footage of these cars lapping their way around. And I think we really do. We'll touch on it again. We've got some great drivers here. I think they all have the ability to understand the racecraft side of things. And I mean, here at RLM, of course, race standards are the number one thing beyond everything is to, make sure that racecraft is top notch. You don't have to be the fastest driver in the world, but have some decent racecraft. And, if someone's coming to lap you, get out the way, obey the blue flags. And I feel like this is a field of drivers that really is going to give us a good showing. And what not a better place to test out something like this than at Bathurst. I mean, the whole theory behind it really was for a bit of havoc, really, wasn't it? I remember being in the Discord chat the first time it was suggested, and 50 cars at Bathurst, 50 cup cars at Bathurst, just kept getting even more wild and more wild. The only thing we don't have here is sort of a hurricane to come in, but yeah,
anything can happen. Oh, do you want us? The weather is actually still set to random, by the way, so we could end up with a thunderstorm.
Okay, so I mean, I thought that we might have had some kind of normalization in this race. We do not. It could go from these blistering hot track temperatures to suddenly pouring down with rain and having to master a car that has zero traction control. Let's just remind people of that. These cars have zero traction control. Everything is modulated by the driver's foot. And that's why you'll see them stepping out and doing all of this beautiful oversteery driving, or I like to call it a bit of drifting. Yeah. It's gonna be great.
I mean, to be honest, like I said, Matt Samuel here, he is a pro drift driver in real life. Yeah, we'll stay with him for a second.
Yeah, go ahead. I remember you mentioning this before, and it obviously catching my eyes. Is a British drift champion, right?
He is. That's correct. Yes. So
that's he's gonna love these cars then, I bet. And
well, yes, he's
obviously looks quite striking.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, he does own a Porsche Carrera and a 999. He was telling me back along a few weeks ago that he's been working on. So yeah, he definitely loves the Porsche. So it's nice to actually see him obviously sign up to this race and taking part. And I mean, he's not doing too bad on himself. 15th place at the moment. He's only just over 8 tenths off the pace. But at the end of the day, I mean, anything can happen. In a 75-minute race. And like I said, I'm guessing with obviously the track temperatures at the moment, tires are literally going to wear out pretty quickly. So there's someone's going to have to pit at some point. So yeah, 75 minutes. I'm sure we're going to get a pit stop with some of these cars for sure. I can't see people going for 75 minutes with completely worn out tires.
Simon, we know that someone is going to try it. 100% will be trying.
Possibly.
And that's what makes this so exciting. There's no mandatory stop. Someone could try and push it to the end. Maybe Matt decides, you know what, I can handle worn out tires. I drift cars. So I'm not going to go into the pits, and I'll try and risk not, putting myself in for an extra 30 seconds of tire change time, plus the drive-in time. Who knows what's going to happen? It's actually going to be incredibly good to watch. And like you said, I mean, guys are just getting themselves more and more close together in terms of pace, and guys are dialing in these Porsche setups. I'm sure people will be changing tires pretty often based on the tire temperatures, especially for a long quali session like this. Probably doing 2 or 3 laps and jumping back in, changing the tire sets out, which is not something they're going to be able to do in the race. So, yeah. It's going to be interesting. We're currently watching Hammer come around. Is he up on his lap time? I currently don't see him up on his lap time in my
he's
a 10th up. He's a 10th up. And this could better his position up to 9th. Of course, Yangsky holding down 9th in front of him. 2 minutes left to quali final corner here for Hammer to really get down and nail it. He does jump. He jumps up to 8th. Hammer found some time in the last 2 corners. And that's why we love Porsche. Did you just see that mega drift?
I just as I changed it, I did. Yes, I mean, because I've had to sorry, George.
Mad.
I literally had to jump over to P2 and P3 because at the moment we've got both of them off on their times at the moment. So this could be really sort of, you know, these two guys at the moment, P2, P3, could end up taking P1 here. So Wolf at the moment only was 3 temps off. He's down to 1 temp off at the moment. Times have just literally gone off. Looks like P2 has lost it. He's now down in his time. So we'll see Chris Hokie is now currently up by 2 temps in P4 at the moment. So this is going to get very interesting now for the next minute and a bit. So I think we've got about a minute or so overtime as well with the qualifier. So if they are on a hot lap, they will get to finish that lap. So we'll see how this materializes. Oh, Wolf has just gone off the track.
Wolf. No,
so that's messed up.
That was Simon. That was Simon. And Ibrahimi, he's not up on his lap time, but he's going to slide on by. The commentator's curse coming out from Simon, taking over Jesse's role. We'll switch over to Chris Hooker, who is... Oh, is Jesse back? Did I hear a laugh?
Yes, indeed I am, and I'm currently paying attention to this driver right here. This is Chris Houquet in the 999 Porsche. He was up the first sector of his lap. He's now drawn back level with his previous best time. Well, we're going to have to pay very close attention to what he can do here in the final segment here now on the back straight here, all the way also, I should say, known as the Chase, and he is tracking into the green by a 10th. And remember, a 10th matters. A 10th could be as good as second place at the time. If he can squeeze another 10th out of it, he could get even more. It's just swung back neutral again, but one more corner left, and you could make up that much and more in one more corner as he throws it down into the final corner, getting everything he can. He does start trending in the right direction, and it's good enough for third.
Awesome stuff. That's epic stuff there by Chris Hooker there. Wow, yeah, just literally managed to get P3 there. I think it was all hoping he was going to get the 2 temps off then, but unfortunately just a 1 temp, but still put him into P3, so that's not a bad start to the race. So we've still got 2 minutes left. I will just jump over and see who else is out at the moment. There's only there's a couple of drivers up on their times at the moment, so we jump down to P26 for a minute to see how he's doing. He's about 3 temps off at the moment, so this could potentially bring him up to sort of P21. So we'll stay with him for a moment. So just literally about
Alexander Borodai making his way to the S's. He is currently 2 tenths up in his time. Oh, there's a Porsche in his view. He makes contact before the exit of Forest Elbow, and that will definitely impact his run down this Conrad Straight. You see just him peeling off and losing his all of his hard work. I think that stationary Porsche parked up in front of him may have caught him off guard before throwing it around the corner, but he looked like he was entering it a little bit hot, and Alexander Borodai sending it.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah. That's when you know what, this lap is not for me, I'm done. And Malinowski currently holding down second. Is he going to...
If you have to realise, if you look at the times there for P2, P3, they are dead on.
Yes, they are indeed completely tied and deadlocked there.
To 4.755
on both, yeah.
Malinowski not going to better it there, so they will stay dead even. And Hooker will have to accept starting third with a tied up lap time, which obviously we can't see the remainders behind the numbers. So
this is the last car out at the moment.
Alex Guglia? Is that the way that I would say that? Guglia?
Goodlia, I think, yeah, Goodlia. Yeah, I think Goodlia sounds good. I'm sure someone will say in the chat how you pronounce it, but
Fabian,
hey.
Yeah, chat will tell us how. Fabian would love that livery. Let me just make that known. Look at the pink.
He would.
He really would. Ryan would disapprove.
See if I can get the table for you guys so you can have a quick look of the table at the moment while we just wait till it drops over to the start of the race there. So these are currently at the moment. So it looks like at the moment we are almost at the top 18 there, so under 1 second off the pace, so some pretty awesome pace there. So going down to round it off to the top 31 within 2 seconds off the pace. So yeah, it's a very, very tight field, as you say, so we're looking very interesting. Let's hope for a nice clean T1 and hopefully no one spins on the mountain and causes an absolute massive pile-up. So,
And what's interesting is that none of the, the poll sits at no one actually owned 2 purple sectors there in that qualifying. Everybody claimed
Wow.
their own sector, so no one managed to nail all 3 parts of the track, which in a 30-minute quali means that we've got a 75-minute race of pure excitement. And the track temperatures have not changed from what I can see. They still remain at 54 degrees. No sign of rain just yet on the horizon. So it's going to be hot, and I believe tires are going to play a big factor in this Porsche Cup car race.
so I'm just waiting for this game to actually let me. There we go. Sometimes it locks me out of the screen to be able to do this, but now we are back in. So what I'll do is, would someone like to give us the maybe the top 20 order of the cars? I'll pan the camera down through, so whoever wants to take that on.
George, would you like me to do that?
Jesse, I would love you to do that. You know that you are better at this than me.
I don't know anything about that. But ladies and gentlemen, this is the big grid, the RLM big grid Porsche Cup at Bathurst. And here is the starting 20 or so. On the front row, you have Samir Ibrahimi and Malinowski. Second row will be made up of Chris Hoke, as I've learned in German, and Wolf Matushka. Third row will be Axel Petit and Issa. Then starting in 7th place, Darren King, followed by Yannick Hammer. 9th place, Christian Well. In 10th place, Jan Jansky, I should say. Just missing out on the top 10, but guaranteed she doesn't finish there. Vicky Thompson will share that row with Jardier. Then Tobias Queck and Matkowski. Got Christian Hanna starting 15th, and the Drift champion Matt Samuel in 16th. 17th is going to be Giorgio Magazzi. 18th place is Zeman. 19th, Jose Yamas. 20th place, Yefinov.
There we go. I think that will do there for the nice top 20 there. So that's our order at the moment. So like I said, hopefully we're going to have a nice clean T1 and hopefully a nice clean lap 1. So we have got live streaming today as well, guys. So nice little added touch to this race. So hopefully everyone's going to behave. But yeah, should be in for some pretty awesome races. So basically, just give you an insight. So they're going to do a full formation lap. So it'll be single file. And then when they're going to get around to the second and last corner, or the leader gets around to the second and last corner, they will get back up into double file again. Leader will bring them around the final corner. And as they approach the start-finish line, it will be green and it'll be go, go, go from there. So race on. So another 2 minutes to go until we transition over in a minute. So yeah, so what's your thoughts then, guys? What's your chances? Who are you going to pick today? Who are you going to murder with your commentator's curse?
Well, that's not very nice, Simon. I'm not picking anybody based on the fact that I can't pick anybody. If I had to pick somebody, it would be the driver of that number 49 Porsche. But considering there's absolutely nothing in it between him and about 5 other competitors, how could I possibly? I'm going to pick the entire field. I think somebody who's in this race wins this race, and that way I don't have to detonate anybody, George.
Yeah, that was definitely not the answer that we were looking for. I think that you've avoided really the question here and broken the fun side of the predictions. So without my bias being too fit, let's pick Zahir Essa, my South African representative there on starting in 6th place. Keen to see what he pulls out. So I'm going to stick with my gun, stick with my bias, not play that like weird game that Jesse does where he pretends like he's not going to curse Wolf Matushka again. I'll just leave it there, really. Let's go Zahir Essa.
I just wanted to say as well, Jesse, in case you're not seeing the chat here, we have obviously random call sign in the chat. So hello, random call sign.
Yes, hello indeed. My old commentating buddy, Random Call Sign. Go check him out on the YouTube as well. Does lovely videos. Just watched his video that he did today. Fantastic stuff. All sim racing related, of course. And throw a few memes in there just because. So hello to Mr. Random Call Sign as we count down the final few seconds before we go out on a sighting lap or pace lap, so to speak, before we get this thing going. Any predictions rather than just the who's going to win out there, guys. Personally, mine is that it's going to be complete chaos for an hour and 15 minutes.
This is it. I mean, track temps again, 54 degrees. So it is starting to cool down a bit, but is it going to be enough? So we see there, just literally just starting off the formation lap now. So Samir is leading the race here. So I did have a chat with Samir earlier on because he's one of our esports drivers, and last time he had an experience here, I don't know if I want to say it because obviously I don't want to curse him. But last time he was here,
not say it.
He was in.
Now it's like an inside joke. You have to tell us.
I have to tell you, that's right, yeah. So last time he was here, he was in the Lambo, and I said to him specifically, do not take the Lambo at Bathurst. And he was in the car with Jada as well at the time, one of the other YouTubers. So yeah, if you guys do want to check him out, Jada will be streaming tonight to see his point of view. So yeah, head over to Jada's YouTube channel. So yeah, they're both in the car as teammates for this 3-hour race we did at Bathurst. And Samir, bless him, touched the curb in a Lambo. Not something you really want to do. Span the car, and obviously Jardy is there like, Samir, you're breaking the car, you're breaking the car. So I said to Samir tonight, I said, stay away from the curbs. I know you're in a Porsche today, I know you love the Porsche, but just stay away from the curbs. He's like, oh, it's okay, it rides better over the curbs than the Lambo. I was like, yeah, but you know, you've had history here at Bathurst. So anyway, he is obviously our current leader, so he will be starting the race. So we'll see what happens here. Hopefully, fingers crossed, he does end up getting a good lead at the start and end up taking the victory later today. So we'll see. Like I said, I don't want to curse it because commentator's curse here is real.
Yeah, RLM is definitely the definition of pick a driver, and 2 minutes later it feels like that driver just has the worst luck. So for those new viewers that don't understand what a commentator's curse is, it's basically when, unfortunately, you're talking about something that someone's doing quite well, and then something goes bad. It feels like it was your fault because you were just highlighting a good moment there. So our drivers all making their way on this formation lap, obviously just out in single file, giving themselves some room out, and it really is going to be that silence before the storm really starts. JC, you said it's going to be havoc for 75 minutes. I think that my predictions are that we're going to see way more pit stops than we expected in a race where there are no mandatory stops. And I feel like it's not going to be down to car damage. I do feel like there are going to be instances where you make a mistake, you touch a curb, and you find yourself, there's no runoff here at the mountain. So just remember, this is a sim. If the guys do make a mistake and balk their car, they have to make their way back to the pits and repair it. So I do feel like we'll see some pit stops there. You're driving on the edge, but I do feel that these hot track conditions are going to make these tires really, really scarce in terms of how long they can go for. I feel like it's going to play a big factor. So guys that can drive more on the edge of the limits might feel like they're gonna find some advantage, but at the same time, it's a big gamble as our grid makes their way down the Conrad Straight, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful view. You guys know why. It's just a field of Porsches, and I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm full of nervous butterflies personally because while we have done Porsche Cup races before, heck, we've done seasons of Porsche Cup races that have all come off fantastically. Just want to say very quickly hello to Fabian Schmedberger and Ryan Gill, who would typically be your host for the Porsche Cup. But this big grid event is a lot different than that. We have about twice as many cars, maybe not quite twice as many, but a ton of more cars, I'll just say, as they line up 2 by 2 by 2 as far as the eye can see. As you see from this camera angle, that is a lot of Porsches. It's like Porsche Fest here in Australia. They will round this final turn to come onto the very short front straight. Samir Ibrahimi, the field is in his hands. The green lights will come on at some point, and they will race hard down into turn 1. Not yet, and there it is. and we are away, and it looks like Malachowski has taken the lead very shortly just to have the inside favor Ibrahimi, and now they are still side by side. Look what's happened here as they run up the straight into turn 2. Will Malinowski, I should say, have a shot on him going into the second turn? We don't know. This is where it could all go wrong. I don't think it will here because of these pro drivers. Of course, this is a pro split, and look there, we have a new leader of this race, and now Samir Ibrahimi is now on the back foot, finds himself in third place. Wolf Matushka getting by now, guys.
Ibrahimi making a big mistake, going very wide coming into the quarry there, and he's allowed Wolf Matushka to get on by as well. So great start coming out from Matushka there to get work done. We ride on board with Ibrahimi here. Seems like we got a little breakaway front 3 here. Hooker just behind there. He's got a bunch of cars roaring behind him. And just a great showing. You see the flames from these Porsche Cup cars getting kicked up. And as we go on our way down the mountain, we get thrown through the dipper. And you just see these body transitions in these Porsches. The weight gets changed and thrown around. It's a balancing game on the pedals between the brake and the accelerator before eventually throwing it around for the final time. And this is where you get to let the Porsche scream and roar down the straight. And it finally gives us a little bit of breathing room to see just how our order has come out.
Is absolutely good stuff as they now go into the chase. Wolf Matushka now has the plan to get up there and fight with Malinowski, but can he do that with Samir Ibrahimi on his back bumper? And of course, we see these excellent camera angles provided by Simon. You see a bit of spit of flame out of the back of the cars. We promise you these Porsches are not on fire, but they certainly are spitting them. Such an excellent camera angle that we saw on that opening lap and will likely continue to see for the remainder of this race. Lap 1 in the books, and Malinowski is your leader here in the Porsche Big Grid. And guys, I'm a little disappointed we did not get the chaos that I expected, though we did see a grandstand start to this race.
We will never be disappointed to see a bunch of Porsches coming around and doing such a clean start. JC, I will not let you say that we wanted chaos through Hull's Corner. These guys did an absolutely phenomenal job coming through. And I think it's just a testament to just how great these drivers really are. These cars being driven on the edge of the limit. It's a train of Porsches as we ride on board with Mikowski here, as he has Thompson on his, really going to get set on fire by the flames being spit up by these Porsche Cup cars. Vicky Thompson going to be holding that line behind and trying to find their way through. These very, very difficult places to try and navigate here at Bathurst. It's hard to find a way through, and it's hard to find a passing place. And really, you're trying to rely on other drivers making mistakes. But in a field of drivers like this, I mean, you really are going to be pushing to the limits. We see Jardia here putting pressure onto Hammer as they come down through the dipper again on their way down towards Forest Elbow. And Jardia trying to find some room past, but there's not even space to put two of these Porsches side by side. And you really, really need to capitalize on the exits. Of course, slipstream going to be a big thing. You're going to see all of these cars tucking up behind each other in a train. And I can't help but smile as our drivers do such a phenomenal job here driving these cars around. Jardia still trying to have a little look-see as they come into the chase. And oh, you see a Porsche going off track coming across, and I'm not quite sure who that is there. Do you guys know who that white Porsche is? Is that King? It looks like King. I think King made a little bit of a mistake, came in a bit hot. He may have bled a position here to Hammer. I think has got by. So I think King, knowing that he had gained a bit of an advantage cutting across the grass there, has yielded away a position. I think Jardia is also going to get alongside and get past. So look at these Porsches throwing it. Oh, there's a sideways Porsche. He's got out of trouble. And everybody getting on past without anything else happening. Hull's Corner, Jesse, you almost cursed it. And it is going to be an interesting hour and 10 minutes longer.
Almost, but not quite, George, as I imagine you are grinning ear to ear. George, of course, as we mentioned in the pre-race, he loves Porsche above everything else. So Porsche Cup Big Grid, you bet he's in on that, and I'm smiling as well for what it's worth. This has been an excellent drive, as George said, from a lot of these guys, and even the few that have found themselves in a bit of bother so far have all sort of avoided a bigger incident, it must be said, or at least it appears that way from the images that we are showing, as we have all of these wonderful camera angles to show you. And just take a look at this going down through here, skyline down into the S's. Look at the elevation fall off. And guys, I cannot stress this enough. I said this in qualifying, I'll say it again, I'll probably say it 3 more times before the end of this event, but these cars are not easy to drive around here, especially driving them in anger such as they are doing here. As we look out the back of Darren King at Christian Wheel, who is currently under fire from Tobias Queck. That's going to be an interesting battle because Queck has Vicky Thompson behind him as well. And looking out the forward-facing camera of Darren King, you see one Jardier driving away a little bit. He's going to find himself caught up in traffic. Darren King manages to make this corner this time. And talking about Darren King being a very sporting driver, I expect nothing less from him. He's obviously an old hat at racing. He knows how to race, and making sure everything's fair and level seems to be his MO, and we applaud him for that. As we look back from Zeman, looking back at Jose Llamas now, who would desperately like to get the 16th position away, because look at the train of cars behind Jose Llamas. It literally stretches as far as the eye can see, and then it goes around a corner. You can't see it anymore. There's so many Porsche Cup cars. Look at them all. It's incredible stuff and incredibly respectful racing, but I gotta say, I expected these Porsches to pull up a little better on each other than they are.
Yeah, I think maybe that slipstream effect really needs to come into account. I think everybody really capitalizing off a lot of their exits here. No one's really made major mistakes in the camera angles that we followed along. So everybody kind of nailing their exits, and it just shows how close these Cup cars are in balance, right? And dividing driver skill in the specific class. I'm not saying that a driver who doesn't do well in a Porsche Cup car is not a good driver, but when you're all thrown into the same car on the same circuit, you most certainly do get a great understanding of who can adapt and who can really get the most out of things like this. And Zeman here does look like he was getting quite a lot out of it. We're going to change over to Nicholas Rage, who is hunting down Goodyear in that beautiful Fabian flavored Porsche in front, that pink livery. Nicholas Rage is under attack from Yangsky from behind. There we see that dashingly bright livery in front. Fabian would most definitely improve that. Oh, it is spottable from a mile away, and Nicholas Rage is not a mile away, so it is most certainly up in his grill. Yangsky not getting the exit out of Forest Elbow that we talked about. Mikowski under attack from Vicky Thompson here at the end of the chase, and Vicky Thompson getting all over the back of Mikowski. Vicky Thompson wide, touches the wall, manages to keep it on track. Not sure if any damage was picked up, but of course that is not where you want to be picking up damage in this stage of the race. As we continue, just look at the side-by-side battles we see of our drivers coming down. Is this into Hull corner?
It is,
or
yes.
Is this into Murray's?
This is Hell's corner, yeah.
Okay, so that was into Hull. So, side by side, then you got the drag down the mountain straight. When you're side by side, you don't have the slip advantage.
Yeah, this is incredible stuff. The fact that they're able to stay side by side. You saw some of the shots, the in-car views of just how much counter steering some of these guys are doing, getting off corner. I think that's where Vicky Thompson got into a bit of it. She was just trying to dig as much as she could off the corner, and then sometimes when you hit the curb, that's all she wrote. But no harm, no foul, though, continued in position, and just like all these guys, just a little bit of a mistake. And fortunately here it's not a really wide track. It's not a place where you can get a whole lot done with a small mistake. And That's all right, as long as you keep the car facing the right way. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. Look at how much counter steer is required from Christian Wheel to keep that car going the right direction. That car certainly doesn't either seem to be handling its best, or either that or Wheel is trying to get on the wheel and drive it as hard as humanly possible to catch up to Tobias Quick, to whom he is losing a bit of ground to. But that's exactly what I'm talking about with these cars being a handful. Again, try it at home, folks. Try to run your own 204 around here in one of these things. It is a fraught undertaking, as we now ride on board with Vicky Thompson, who is continuing her pursuit of Rommel here, going to end up being through the chase here. So this is very interesting. This is a good camera angle. You can really see the hand movement and see exactly what they're doing, including on the gas and the brake as well. You can see exactly what they're doing. Oh, Rommel leaves a little bit of an open, and Thompson's not going to miss that aspiring esports pro. Could very well be one in my mind, and she gets totally beside Rommel. She's going to have the outside. That's a hard task, but if anybody can do it, she can. She'll have the better exit out of the corner. Can she get clear? Yes, she can. Happy birthday to Vicky Thompson, who absolutely made an excellent pass there off the ever so slight mistake, and that's why this is pro split, guys.
Yeah, and those are the tiny little mistakes that will have to be made for these kind of overtakes to really take place. As we've seen, all of our drivers really pushing things to the limits, and even on the focus cam of the cars that are in shot, just in the background, you can see guys looking for action, looking to go side by side and try and establish their way up the order. Of course, a huge amount of cars to work through if you are at the back of the pack, and a lot of potential to do it. Martin Vindus here currently riding along in 28th position, has Nikolai in front with 27th. Of course, you know, every position counts, and if you can find it, you're going to try. Of course, you've got a whole bunch of cars ahead of you, you've got a couple of cars behind you in the middle of a train. It is intense racing to be in this position, and like we've said, the tires side is going to get interesting. We're coming into our 5th lap here, which is probably beyond what the guys were running in the quali sessions in the same conditions. They're probably changing tire sets quite often. Guglia here with the splitter cam, looking to see if Zeman is going to make a mistake and find a way by. Did look a little bit scruffy towards the exit before Forest Elbow there, and Guglia had dialed in. But of course, you don't want to get too close to someone in front, and you want to try and make a pass as well. It's a real balancing act. And here, look at the runoff. Jesse, you're wanting to see more aero effect, and here's the slipstream. They're going to go side by side, throwing it through the right-hander. I think Guglia has got the move done. He's used the arrow. Oh, has he? Guglia hasn't got it done. Zeman has defended monstrously hard. And Guglia here with a good exit coming out. Going to be all over the back. Who's going to break later? There's no space around the outside. The inside has been left wide open. There's a big dive that's been sent in. And that's not what we want to see. Stewards will be looking into that. The inside was left way open, and someone decided to miss the breaking point. I felt a little bit too excited, and that's sometimes the scary parts of running on the train, right? You may miss a breaking point, and there's nowhere for you to go. And unfortunate circumstances then. I'm sure we'll hear from our stewards soon.
Absolutely. I just want to say as well, track temperature is still 53 degrees, so very hot here. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing, you know, tires will be cooking at this point now for, you know, only 5 laps in. So, you know, tires will start to get worn very soon. And I think, as you guys were saying earlier on, you know, we might be in for a couple of pit stops with this rate, with this amount of temperatures. But yeah, no, shame to see that happen. You know, obviously the dive there and taking someone out at the last corner. So like I said, live streaming will check into that and penalise that person for what they've done there. So they will end up getting a drive-through penalty for that. But still, at the moment, I mean, the race has been absolutely awesome. I don't know about you guys at home watching this, but for us, even just literally just doing the camera work and commentating on this, I mean, you know, lap 1 was just absolutely fantastic. I mean, I couldn't believe how clean it was, and even obviously 5 laps on, it's been absolutely spot on. And it's just with the odd, you know, that one incident we just saw then. Yeah, I mean, what do you think about that, George?
Yeah, like you said, I think the order has been quite interesting. I think something big has happened though to Wolf Matushka, who was running second and seems to have dropped down the order. He seems to be in 10th here at the moment, so not quite sure what's happened there to him. Chris Hooker here has Tobias Quick flashing his lights, and Hooker's also not quite on the gas there. Doesn't feel like his Porsche is feeling too happy. That seems strange down the end of the Conrad Straight from Chris Hooker there. Tobias Quick obviously getting by for position. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but Quick definitely seemed to have a good run. But Hooker didn't sound like he was really pushing his Porsche there either.
No, I mean, just to give you a bit of insight there, I was speaking to our esports drivers earlier on, and Vicky was saying they're going to go for a safer setup, so higher downforce and stuff like that, just because obviously the length of the race, just save themselves getting into the wall. So maybe this is what it is. Maybe they're running a high downforce, the car in front's obviously running even lower wing, and hence obviously getting that pull, then the tug down the chase there, and then obviously again getting the pass.
So obviously trying to make it up then in the run up and down the mountain, obviously trying to keep the car more stable through there, I suppose. That makes sense in terms of what Quick did there to dial it in. So it's always good to have some insight there, Simon, so thanks for that.
You're very welcome. So Jesse, what are you thinking so far?
Well, exactly like George said, that the passing would come. It has come, and I've been incredibly excited to watch all these passes, one of which you just watched occur there. As Wolf Matushka, who has brought his car to pit road, you assume that would be some sort of accident, a bit too early to be pitting, even if you were going to do a two-stop strategy here. To keep the tires under you in these incredibly hot and baking conditions. So something amiss there. And also, I also spy Zeman in pit road as well. So clearly something has gone amiss for those guys that were in the top half of the field, as we see one car taking the escape road there, probably the better option than to try and make that corner at some point. But yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I'm talking about. We've seen a lot of passing and everything, and a lot of good driving, a lot of good, hard, safe driving at the same time. And, occasionally, the pros do get it wrong as well. And as it's just been said in chat by the Porsche Cup expert himself, Fabian Schmidberger, yeah, these things are easy to lock up. So certainly could be some of the issues and some of the things that we'll watch out for the rest of the day that these drivers could be dealing with, as Rage is trying to get around Magazi at the moment, can't quite get it done. But a good, hard, and again, a fair fight between the two of them, as maybe this is on purpose, guys. Now that we see more drivers doing it, Magazi has come down to pit road as well. Is it possible that the track temp is so hard that after 20 minutes just about, it is time to change the tires or something on those cars?
I feel like, I think Wolf Matushka's pit was definitely some kind of damage or problem there, as we see Thompson getting around Rommel again. Yeah, cameraman was just missing a little bit of that action. Looks like Yamas also going to get past Rommel here. So Rommel been losing out big time on places there. Maybe he's got the inside line as they come through the cutting. And it's going to be Rommel touching the outside wall, the inside wall. And that's just going to cost a little bit of time. So Yamas is going to get on by. But yeah, I think Wolf Matushka's pit seemed to be due to some damage. He was falling down the order way before he had gone into the pit stop, JC. I think everyone else pitting, if we didn't catch an error there, might be looking at something with tires. But that would be very, 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 very optimistic. If you're only getting 8 laps out of a set of tires, you've got a long race ahead of you. So I think drivers will be trying to push those to the limits. I do expect us to see, a couple more guys maybe pushing it to the limits and making some mistakes and things. I think that is going to be part of the parcel with this kind of a race length with no mandatory stop, and drivers trying to experiment and try and find that advantage that they can. You're matched up against quite a field of drivers here, side by side. Vicky Thompson and Christian Wiel. Wiel is going to be on the inside as they can make it through the chase. Vicky Thompson getting the move. Oh, that is definitely my commentator's curse. I'll take it for myself. Unfortunately,
let it be known that George Smith, commentator cursed Vicky Thompson. She will not be okay with that, George.
Okay, that time was my fault. And pushing things to the edge of the limits on the Porsches. Lucas Rommel will take his place back from Vicky Thompson. Of course, this lets us talk about some of the things like consistency here with the Porsches. You might lose out down a straight or off to someone, but anyone else pushing and trying to find the limits might just send it off and give you a position back. So Lucas Rommel here looking to maybe capitalize on Yamas, going to pull out of the slip and take things around the outside as they make it through the quarry. And it is going to be a little bit of side-by-side action, but giving each other enough room, and Rommel doing the right thing, not making a mistake. But Wirsberger is going to be looking to try and make some space himself there. And of course, battles on track in front mean that drivers are defending. That means if you're attacking, your opportunity to close on and dial in is there. Coming up to the top of the mountain, these onboard cameras just showing how close to the ground these Porsche Cup cars are, and of course how very scary the barricades on the side of the track are. There are no runoffs. You come down through Skyline, everything drops away. It's completely scary. The car's trying to murder you, and then suddenly the track drops even further down through the dipper, and you're just trying to, of course, hold on to the back of the car in front of you, hoping that they've referenced their braking points, because, you know, if you are suddenly having to brake earlier, the car behind you has to adapt to that. And beautiful bit of driving on board here with Lucas Rommel as he tries and find a better way around Yamas. And of course, Yamas had taken that position with Rommel earlier in that little double overtaking move. Matt Samuel, our drift champion, coming down onto the back of that beautifully acclaimed pink Porsche, trying to have a look-see through the fastest corner and not going to be able to do it, and having to tuck back through the chase. Jesse, do you have anything to add to that beautiful pink Porsche? I mean, I'm going to encourage you to talk about colors, and we can talk about Fabian Schmidberger's color choices. He would definitely be supporting that Porsche. Now, big mistakes being made in front there, has 2 positions given for free. I think that was, who just ran wide? I just missed the camera update.
I believe it's...
Jesse, did you see?
I am unsure. I was looking for a driver that was falling down the order, but I didn't quite...
Was it Yangsky? It might have been Yangsky. Yangsky.
Yes, okay. I'll have to take your word for it there. I didn't see it, but man, I gotta say, I actually received a call earlier from the International Space Station about that pink car. They said they can see that from space. That is an incredible livery. How in the world did they get that car that pink? That is hyper pink. That is out of this world pink. Yes.
You know, Kunos has been like teasing these sort of esports liveries and things in their esports broadcasts, right? I mean, you guys picked up on those and Charles livery and things like that.
Yes.
I mean, did they get add a new bright pink just so that they could create that as well?
I think, George, what's happened here is they've given all of the racers of ACC a crayon box with unlimited colors and potential, and some of the drivers have decided to use every single crayon in the box, is what I think has occurred. But all fun and games aside, we are not mocking in the slightest. We love the crazy and awesome paint jobs and some of the combinations that these drivers come up with, like this, for instance. The silver and the bright pink is just beautiful, as this is our leader, by the way. This is Malinowski in the 992. He's now gapped Samir Ibrahimi by about 4.7 seconds at the moment. Certainly didn't see that coming. It was obviously a possibility, though, it must be said, because of how close they were. And I believe George is the one that touched on it in the pre-race. He talked about how some of these drivers were really good at setting a lap, or some of these drivers, were working on race pace speed, and we didn't really know what we were going to get around here, because consistency is key. And we've seen time and time again already in this race of whenever a driver gets it minutely, I'm talking millimeters wrong, it can go really wrong for them. And of course, they're talking about the Porsche Cup car, where if you make a sudden correction left or right, as George also pointed out in qualifying, that can have big consequences. We've already seen that already. And George, my question to you is, are you already typing your apology letter to Miss Vicky Thompson?
I don't like the fact that you keep highlighting that I may have cursed one person when you have done it so many times in broadcasts before. But yes, I've sent my apology off already. You are very nosy, and you know that we have to apologize to Vicky Thompson quickly. So yes, we follow along with Martin Vindus. He tries to chase down on Nikolai in front. Of course, some sky blue Porsches up front, and another blue Porsche from Martin Vindus behind, just fitting with Skyline that they make their way through now. And talking about that runoff, we saw someone taking it earlier. I mean, that was quite a big change to Bathurst, was for them to actually tar that up. I know in the sim, we only got the tarred up version. I mean, before, it was quite a dangerous, I think, I'm not sure if it was grass or gravel runoff. But we're looking at Darren King going slideways with tires that are definitely saying, please change me at some point. Darren King says, you've got a couple more kilometers on you, mates. You're going to go a little bit longer. And Darren King did save that car quite beautifully. We know that when the back end of a rear-engined car comes out, there's only a certain level that it can step out before it completely pirouettes around. And Darren King really holding it on the limit there, holding down 7th place at the moment. So in the top 10, our drivers starting to space themselves out a little bit up in the front of the order. It's really the mid-pack and the back of the pack where we see cars still fighting it out really on each other's rear bumpers, front bumper to rear bumper. But yeah, Darren King still potentially got some options to make some positions up. Of course, only 48 minutes into the race, or 48 minutes of the race remain, which means that we haven't seen too many pit stops just yet. That's still going to come in. 12 laps have been run from our race leaders. It is going to be an interesting next 10 to 15 minutes. I think this is really where the tires are going to start to scream and squeal their way out of the grip levels. And cars like here, where we watch Nikolai chasing down on Matt Samuel in front in that number 12 Porsche, I think, oh, you see it's getting onto the gas early. No TC in these cars either. Nikolai almost seeing the wall, and you get a quick fright in these Porsches, and suddenly you don't feel like you can take the corner as confident. Look how scary this Porsche is on the limits. It is not being driven like someone that is feeling comfortable, and you're trying to keep it in the track limits. Marius Nikolai is struggling here with this Porsche as he makes his way down the mountain here. Matt Samuel starting to gap him just a little bit. Matt Samuel making a mistake, and now Nikolai managing to close down that gap again. And this is why we love Porsche Cup car racing, because the driver limits are being tested. We've got a 53-degree track temperature, so the car's tires are being tested. And because there's no traction control, everything is being modulated off that right foot. And you lapse concentration for just a split second, and it can all go so wrong. So then throwing it in, you're back onto the brakes, and of course, your braking points are going to change with your tires changing. It's all evolving, and I think that's part of sim racing that I love. You know, these guys have to adapt on the fly and still be competitive and look for places to try and better their position. Look at that Springer Porsche in the back. Simon, please go to it. That Springer Porsche, number 21. That is a color combination I have not seen in a while. Sorry, no, this is not it. This is Dustin.
Oh, you were about P21, not the car 21.
P21, sorry, there we go. That was
miscommunication.
My bad. But yeah, Michael Springer in what is it is gold. Is that gold, yellow, and purple? It looks like something from a Dragon Ball Z movie. I don't know if that's a reference that you guys get.
I understand where you're coming from here. Yeah, I think there's a few guys in the same team with the same livery, actually. We have to actually look at that.
I quite like that. That is striking. Like, to me, that's if you're a cameraman and you're trying to focus on action, it's very hard not to focus on something that is purple and bright yellow like this.
Absolutely, yeah. I just wanted to point out earlier on, as you was going on there a bit there, George, is obviously Darren King was in the pits a moment ago, so he's obviously gone and pitted for tyres or something, because it looks like someone else has gone into pits as well. P23's in the pit as well, by the looks of it. So yeah, it looks like there is definitely some tyre issues, as I say. Track temperature's 53 degrees. I'm not surprised. You know, this is Bathurst, Porsche Cup, hot track. Yeah, tyres are literally going to be degrading very quickly here. So, I mean, but still, so far so good. I mean, to see the pace that some of these guys have got at the moment, as we are on board with Esther at the moment. Obviously, you believe you said he was a retired driver, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know too many facts about Zahir. I've chatted to him a little bit on Twitter, but I do know that he did used to race the Formula V side of things, and he's obviously done a lot of sim racing here. He's obviously under pressure here from Jardia. Jardia having a little look down. I believe this is the mountain straight. Yeah, they're coming up to the quarry. So here going to have the inside line. Jardia on the outside. Who's going to brake later? Jardia is going to brake later. Zahir Essa going to try and get on the power earlier, but I do believe that Jardia has got that move done around the outside. Beautiful bit of driving coming out from Jardia. Essa going to try and reclaim that position, I'm sure, but it looks like Jardia kind of reeled him in and then set himself up a good 2 or 3 cars lengths away. So that cutback opportunity not given immediately to Essa. He's going to have to fight back to try and get onto the back of Jardia's Porsche. So it is all about tire management, as Martin Windus, again, Windus and Nikolai have been literally glued to one another since the start of the race. I don't think that either one of them knows that other people exist in this race. It's just the two of them. No one else matters. Our 2 blue Porsches, we're going to ride on by, and I really do love the angle that this splitter cam shows. You get to see straight under the bottom of the Porsche, especially coming up the mountain here as well, which then shifts the perspective as we go down. So you really do get a good idea of the elevation levels that these guys do. This is sort of the plateau at the top of the mountain. Of course, they make that run back down, but these two have really just been holding on to each other. And that's what you want to see. I mean, it's a long race. You've got a long way ahead. There's no point in diving and fighting and maybe settling in and finding some rhythm is the right way to do things. Windus and Nikolai doing exactly that. 15th and 16th. That's what we're talking about. I mean, I love coming in doing RLM things because throughout the order, you jump to anywhere on track and there's someone displaying some great bits of driving. It's a phenomenal community. And I really do love all the drivers that feature here.
Yeah, absolutely, George. I mean, just to show you, I mean, these cars, absolute handful. Bathurst as well is very demanding. And obviously with a hot track as well, the tyres conditions, I mean, these guys are putting on a show, absolutely. I mean, this is first class racing here. So yeah, some of the top drivers in the game here. Yeah, I mean, what more can we ask for, you know? I mean, we've got some awesome footage, you know. Viewers obviously at home seem to be happy. So yeah, no, I mean, obviously we're putting on a show here, and so are the guys who are obviously racing. So no, obviously it's thanks to everyone that's obviously you know, taking this race seriously. So yeah, it's really good stuff.
There would be nothing for us to get excited about if everyone was just throwing it away and not putting on, you know, a great bit of skill. So I think, like you said, a real show being put on for the viewers here, and drivers doing their best. Of course, not maining these cars. I really can just, you know, tip of the hat. If you're not a sim racer, you know, getting thrown into a car that you're not familiar with is always difficult. I mean, we've seen all these big events going on online, a lot of big drivers getting involved in those, you know, having to turn down events saying, you know, I can't jump into that sim. I don't have, you know, comfort levels in it or whatever. So it is always nice to see such a great variety of drivers still coming out here and doing something like a Porsche, you know, single make cup race. It's so much fun. I love it. And it's not just because it's Porsches. I love the fact that you don't have any manufacturer differences. It comes down to like fine tuning and really understanding where you can push the car, where you have to, you know, hold back. It really does put, you know, a new league into the dimension of who's a better sim driver or not. Even if it's not something to be taken, you know, for points at the end of the day, it's still just fun to see. And going forward, you always remember people. I mean, Darren K. Oh, Hooker here. This is has made a big mistake. And we just talk about things like this, a lapse of concentration for just a moment in time. And the move being done, Hooker making his way through and just done and dusted. Tiny little mistake done. And that's why you want to stay within, you know, a couple of tenths of the cars in front of you, because any mistakes, free positions and make your way up the order. So Hooker going to be up into 5th. The slipstream from Hammer going to be really beneficial here. If you were right about that downforce side, these straight sections are going to be where Hooker's Porsche struggles. He just has to hold off before he gets into the grippy sections for the climb of the mountain. He's done just that. So managing to hold off, going to use the downforce now through the real slippy parts of the track. And Quick up behind. Look at Quick. He's just closed down that gap to the back of Hammer in no time. So just like that, 40 minutes left of the race, we got a new little three-way battle for what would be 5th place, because Hooker up front in that Row Racing Motorsport liveried themed color Porsche. Then in the middle, we've got Hammer, and behind we've got that bright green and yellow Porsche from Tobias Quick. So coming down the mountain, they whoa. Quick trying to park in the back of Hammer's Porsche, and that is just how close these Porsches are going to get to each other. I love this angle. We see the flames being kicked up as well as they shift through the gears. Just phenomenal views of some good racing here at Bathurst. They split themselves out a little bit for the straights, but of course downforce may play effect, and of course that slipstream effect. Look at the change in elevation being indicated here by the helicopter cam. Such a fast section of the track. Bathurst just has no parts to really hate.
Yeah, I mean, really, if you think about it, George, there are a lot of fantastic corners here. I mean, so many iconic ones. If you're not talking about the first one of name that I will not mention, but like Skyline, the Chase, and just all of it. I mean, it's just this track lends itself to having good racing, and I think that's sort of the part that endears it. I mean, because I think if you had a modern circuit like this, you would simply say, oh, well, it's a bit too narrow, and you know, it's a bit not enough, if you will, for it to make overtakes. But it absolutely works. It's one of those things where it absolutely works, and I love it. I love seeing races. I thought this Porsche Cup race would be more of a kerfuffle than it has been. Instead, what we've gotten in the Pro Split is a bunch of incredibly well-mannered drivers going as hard as they possibly can, driving a tricky car and doing brilliant overtakes.
And Quick just capitalizing again on a mistake being made by Yannick Hammer there. And Hammer drops down another position. Quick going to get on by. And maybe Quick being held up by Hammer before, that mistake going to allow him to maybe chase down onto Chris Hooker up front. But there we have it. A lap later and a change in position between these three drivers. Hooker liking the fact that these two are probably going to scrap it out, give himself a bit of room. You can see it kind of evolving and growing as we run down and get it. Oh, Quick's made a mistake. He's had to use the runoff. Did he lift off there? Because if you don't lift coming down there, the game will give you penalties, you know? So it is some way that if you have made a mistake, you do not gain advantage. You make sure you don't gain advantage. Otherwise, the game will punish you. And Quick there doesn't look like he's picked up something. Maybe got a warning for track limits, but definitely didn't get given a drive through there. So back on the power once again for this fast Conrad Straight. The three of these drivers now definitely spacing them, making use of some social distancing at this point in time, really. Big fan of Quick's numbering as well, 969. It's a number that I like to run on my cars for endurance races if I get to drive with a teammate. So, you know, a little bit more bias there, some bright colors, 969. Quick looking like he's got some pace too. Might be giving Hooker a bit of a rundown in a little bit. So these two definitely people to keep an eye out on in the later stages of the race, maybe even sooner than later. Definitely getting themselves within that fighting position. Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, it's quite incredible to see how many laps these guys have driven on these tires as well. I think that at the end of the day, it is going to become harder. We see the track dropping in temperature. I mean, we started off quite hot, but it's only dropped a couple of degrees, which really isn't going to play much of a factor. Like you said, Simon, it's pretty much still just hot as it started. And I mean, 18 laps on some of the on the leaders' tires. That's quite incredible in these cars, and I'm pretty stoked to see some of the screenshots post-race that the drivers share, where they'll show their like little tire indicators in ACC. I'm quite sure a lot of them will be screaming, and a lot of the drivers will be like, "Look at my tires! Look at what we're doing!" And that's just all part of the racing here. Rommel is closing down onto Veal. You see Veal looking like he was gonna make a little bit of a mistake, managed to catch whatever was going on. Rommel reacted accordingly and obviously lost some of his own game. The two of them looking like they are going to set themselves up for a bit of a knife fight as well a little bit later on. I mean, still 30 minutes remain of the race, 34 minutes to be precise, and plenty of things to still happen as most of the top 10 haven't been into the pits yet.
No, I just realised as I spoke a moment ago, I had my mic muted. It was great, wasn't it? So everyone's like, probably about a minute of pause or silence there, just listening to car noises, and me just talking to us basically ourselves in their own com box. But yeah, no, as I was trying to say earlier on, unfortunately it didn't come through the stream because I muted myself, because unfortunately I've got a mechanical keyboard with blue switches, and they are so loud and they get picked up through the mics all the time, so I've got to mute my mic every now and again when I'm trying to do other things as well by changing cameras and stuff. But yeah, what I was going to get back to is Samir currently 8.1 seconds off the leader at the moment for P1. You know, the gap is increasing there, and the same with P3. Alex off of P2. So it's Axel, sorry, off of P2 there. I mean, he was 2.8 seconds off the pace earlier. He's now down to 2.9. So the gap is increasing there between Samir. But what I was trying to say earlier on regarding the Samir's pit strategy is if these guys do go in for a pit, you know, this is where Samir is usually gains a couple of seconds from his pit strategy, and you know it could end up mixing up with things, and especially if P1 does end up you know, with a bad pit strategy. I mean, this could really change things up in the last sort of half an hour of the race. But as I say, pit track temperature is 52 degrees at the moment, so these tyres are really going to be really degraded at this point. So I imagine it's going to be literally an ice rink out there for them. Yeah, what's your thoughts on that, guys?
I think that the ice rink is going to have a new little combo dancing on it in the next couple of seconds, because Tobias Quirk is flashing his lights uncontrollably towards the front of Chris Hooker, of course, in front of him, and of Lucas Rommel. He's also got Christian Veal in front. So the next four cars here, a little train coming down, is going to give us some battle stations on the ice rink, and I can't wait. These guys are all driving on the edge of the limits, on the edge of the grip limits too. Look at them. They throw it through what would be Hull Corner, and it does feel like Hull Corner. And Lucas Rommel here, I feel like he's got the run, and he's pulled out of the slip early. He's trying to secure a line, but Lucas Rommel, he wants to say, if you're going to come alongside me, I'm going to pick the inside line. And I think it's going to be Rommel to just, oh, look at the grip being exploited here. It's just a beautiful camera angle. Those glowing tailpipes, spitting flames, they're coming up through the cutting. It narrows out. You can't see anything when you're driving in this position, just the Porsche in front of you. You're hoping that they don't make a mistake as you've got a car behind. It's just a train running up the mountain, and Rommel here trying to find somewhere to get on by. Yamas behind, he's putting the pressure onto Rommel. And these three drivers really pushing on the edge of the limits, making it up towards the skyline now. Will they all three make it through without anyone having to eject? It looks like 1, 2, 3 have made it through. They're going to send it down through the dipper. Veal looking very, very stable here. Rommel needs the straights. I think he's sacrificed a little bit of his downforce so that he can get that straight in speed. He does seem to climb back in, but through these sections where it's winding, you see Yamas closing back down, but this is where the exit to Forest Elba onto the Conrad Straight. This is where Rommel hopes to catch back up to Veal. But Veal, with a great exit coming through the windy bits down the mountain, he's managed to give himself a couple car lengths ahead. And I think our battle here will be put on ice just a little bit longer.
This is incredible stuff we're seeing. George, take a break. You've not had a break because nothing ceased to. I mean, it's just, look at it. It's still happening between Christian Wheel, Rommel, and Yamas at the moment. And I was watching that Chris Huke battle in front with Tobias Queck. They've been nose to tail for a number of laps at this point. Nobody willing to make a mistake. Nobody willing to put a foot wrong in that case. All of them attempting to get the absolute most out of the cars. And this battle here, though, between Christian Wheel, and here we go again, Rommel again thinking about going to the outside. It's Freaky Friday, or should I say it's Groundhog Day. That's the right movie, as he's going to try it again. Got my movies confused there, but still, being Groundhog Day, it always ends the same. Rommel will eventually have to figure out how he can get around him. George seems to think that if he stays in the slipstream a little bit longer, he may have a better shot. I tend to agree with him, but again, if you do go out there and you make a mistake, and something has happened there, yes, Christian Wheel has put a foot wrong. Finally, commentators curse, and Rommel's by him, and Jose Yamas is now thinking about making the move on him on the mountain portion. Is that wise? I don't know, but here they come through Skyline, and look at Jose Yamas thinking about it. And he's going to tuck back in line because Jose Yamas isn't a driver to make big, rash and brash maneuvers there. He'll just follow him for a bit. And finally, after all that, Rommel does get by Christian Wheel. I can't believe that it took something like that. Actually, I take all that back. I can, in fact, believe that it took all of that to get around him. That's just what we have expected. And to echo your two guys' points previously, that's the sort of racing we expect, and that is what we have had. But here we do have Will and Yamas coming down through here. We'll see if Yamas thinks about making the inside move. Will sort of shades him off before going to trying to set up for the corner. Nothing doing there. Yamas backs off of the gas before they get to the chase. And meanwhile, Rommel in front waving bye-bye. Already got about a second or more on him. As, oh, look at this. Look at this. Christian Wheel has said, I have had enough of that. Clearly that was his tires giving up, and he would like for Mr. Feelgoods, as we say in America.
Yeah, I think that was the right call. I think Veal obviously making that exit out of the cutting earlier on. They Yamas and Veal actually did kind of the same exit. They did like synchronized drifting out, and it just allowed Rommel to drive on by. Can we just touch on that as a driver as well? Just great bit of driving coming out from Rommel. You saw he clearly couldn't make his way by. There was great defensive work going on, and just kept putting the pressure on, waiting for a mistake to be made. And that's what you want to see. Yannick Hammer, look at the pace coming down here. Going to put it to the outside. What a brave bit of driving. That's a place to overtake. Throws it around the outside, and Hammer on the outside of Baradai. What an amazingly brave place to overtake a Porsche Cup car, putting a tire onto the grass and saying yeet. Woo! That was nuts.
Oh my goodness, such amazing camera work by Simon here, and George piped up and I jumped out of my chair. That was an incredible overtake, and that almost was disastrous, but it wasn't. Hammer absolutely getting the pass done. And for you eagle-eyed viewers at home, you may have noticed that the green car, the Skittle car as I call it, is now in front of the 999 of Mr. Huke, and that is a pass done. We didn't quite catch that. We were watching a also incredible maneuver occur, but this pass has been done. And look at Tobias Queck now drive away from Chris Huke at the moment. So be interesting to see if Huke can keep up with Tobias Queck at this sort of venture. We'll probably check back in on this to see if this continues to be a thing. He actually closed up on him there, did Mr. Huke there through that section on Queck. Look how close they are now. That was an excellent set of corners as Huke is not struggling, I should say. He's doing a really great job, I should say. He's sawing at the wheel to keep that Porsche in the cage, which is kind of how I describe driving a Porsche Cup car. It's trying to keep the animal in the box when it wants to get out of the box. Four ways flashing, and now a turn signal flashing on Queck's car. I don't know. Now four ways again flashing on Queck's car.
Can I tell you a little bit about this? So Hooker is sitting there. He is flashing his lights at Quek, because obviously Quek, when he was behind, was flashing at Hooker. So now it's in-game, you know, you flash at me, I flash at you. So Hooker flashes at him, and he puts his hazards on to say, I see you flashing, mate, and I'm going to keep these things on. But I mean, obviously a little bit dangerous. Those turn signals really should be used for things like, I know a lot of drivers use them when they're being blue flagged to allow the driver behind to know, I want you to pass me. So, you know that Tobias Quake is not doing that for Chris Hooker now. He's not saying, come and pass me, but it's most definitely flaunting and taunting his rival right now. And Chris Hook has to try and catch up to the back of this. He's still flashing his lights. And that's something that I like as a driver. You know, there's a little bit of, you know, there's an allowance of these kind of things where you can just see Chris is like, you know what, I'm going to put you off your cornering line. And if you can get the driver in front of you to get off of his concentration zone and suddenly focus into his rear view camera, you know, that plays into your advantage, because he's going to be making mistakes into corners. And that's what these drivers do. I mean, this is the pro split. I don't expect people to be put off by flashing lights. But it's more of an indication of, you know, I want to pass you, let me pass you. And you can see there's no giving up. You know, here we've got Christian Veal trying to get past Alexander Borodai. And of course, also flashing his lights as they make it through the cutting, saying, listen, let me do, mates. I want to get through. Alexander Borodai saying, well, where do you want me to go? This is the tightest part of this track. It's hard for us to make any sort of moves. You're going to have to deal with my pace. And even if I could, I wouldn't let you pass. This is racing, as these guys throw it hard as they can towards the top of the plateau of the mountain. This left-hander here can just catch you off guard. You run too wide, you touch the dirt, and there you have made the mistake from Borodai, but it's not going to be a place for Veal to make a move just yet. Has to hold on to that decision, but the dipper here could be the place that the move might be opened up. Christian Veal wants to get it done, but Borodai going to make that Porsche Cup car wide as he can, because right now you can't get by if you're not tucked up. And if you get a good exit out of Forest Elbow, you know that you've got a good run down the straight. We change back to our battle between Chris Hooker and Tobias Quick as the flashes continue. You don't get flashing in racing except here, right? I mean, that's a bit of a cricket joke. I think Simon would love it.
Oh dear, George, you are an absolute treat, and nobody at home take the ribbing that George and I give each other as a negative at all. We enjoy working together, and we like to have a little extra fun at each other's expense. And more to the point, George, of what you were talking about between these two guys, one of the things that Tobias Queck is known for, other than driving lime green beautiful cars in my mind, he also likes to hit the flasher button all the time. It's I don't know if it's particularly a head game or he thinks it's funny, but he will hit the flashers all the time, and so do some of the other members of the Lappin Party crew. Yes.
You're so right. I mean, he's going round through the with Essa. Has he made a little touch? I think he did touch, but he's backed off.
We'll just try and get that under sail.
Let's see. Maybe they come.
No, he drifted around. He drifted around and whistled a bit onto
So Petite drifting rounds here, not able to just get out of it. Does touch the back, but backs off. So good bit of racecraft being shown, as you I'd expect from my South African representative. You know, no bias coming out there whatsoever.
Absolutely not at all.
Going to get a move done here on Hooker. Hooker's run wide coming out and led down another position. So Rommel going to make his way by as pace from Rommel seems to be increasing with the what you would expect degrading tires.
Yes, indeed. Well, all up front, Samir Ibrahimi leads this race around, and I'm unsure if he's made a pit stop yet. I don't think he has.
I don't think he has. I think Malinowski made his pit stop, I believe.
Yes. No, I would assume that is correct, and I believe Petit and Issa have not made their pit stop yet, but that leaves Samir Ibrahimi out front as we ride on board with Zahir Issa at the moment. He is actually on the back of Petit, if I'm not very much mistaken. This is a chase up through the mountain here And this camera is just amazing as there's a car up against the wall there entering Skyline. And that's how quick life comes at you here on this racetrack. There would have been no way to slow down had that car not been up against the barrier there. As you see Issa get it a little bit wrong in comparison to Petit, but that's okay because if you can miss a few corners around, it doesn't matter. It's like George said before, he talked about qualifying how all of the top runners had a different purple sector, meaning that they were the outright fastest in it. Nobody had a perfect lap. In this camera right here, this is Tobias Quick looking back at Rommel now. Rommel coming with authority, it would seem, marching up through the field. It's like Battle of Britain stuff right here. This is legendary stuff for the 23 car of Rommel. We'll see if he can get a run here on the straightaway. He seems like he's a little far back, but we shall see. The only thing that Queck likes in his mirror is the fact that it's not Chris Huka flashing his lights at him as a reversal of fortune there. Chris Huka actually doing the light flashing on Queck. Queck, of course, having a little fun with him with his four-way hazard flashers there. But Rommel looks like he has the pace in the corners, and if I'm not mistaken, might have. Oh, and look here, we have the leader of the race. This is Samir Ibrahimi in pit road to do a stop.
Yeah, I was just going to jump.
You made a mistake, yeah?
Yeah,
that thing looks damaged.
I was just going to say that again.
Is. Yes, you guys are well spotted. You guys are absolutely right. Samir Ibrahimi has had contact with a wall or a car or something. I don't know, but it has certainly damaged the car. We were looking earlier at Alexander Borodai, and he had a very similar damage pattern on his car at the time. Matter of fact, I don't actually see him on the board anymore. But either way, we are with what we assume will be the leader whenever pit stops cycle through. That is, of course, unless Petit and Issa can make it the entire distance. That would be an interesting question. Certainly, we've seen some shenanigans like that before with people hypermiling their cars, but this was the original leader of the race. This is Malinowski, who is, I believe, is this for position as, no, this isn't for position. That is a lap car, in fact. That is a 19th place car of Matt Samuels. Somebody in chat earlier was talking about or asked if there were any real drivers in the race. Well, there are several karting drivers in this race at the amateur, semi-pro, and even pro level, but our highest profile driver in this race, as far as I'm aware, is Matt Samuel, who was the 2013 British drifting champion and is also a 10-top racer in his own right, as we're seeing a pass be made here. But again,
that battle behind them, that is for position. I mean, Springer and Samuels are fighting out. Springer obviously in that beautiful gold and the purple car. So I mean, this is a beautiful. If you could be a cameraman, I'm sure you'd love to be parked on the back of a Porsche like this. Well, if I was a cameraman, I'd like to, because Springer is having a look-see towards the inside line, ducks back behind. This is just a beautiful way to admire a chase, and of course, we get to watch Springer chasing down on Samuels there, and. Yeah, this is, like you said, this should be our race leader coming out, should they not pit Essa and Petit. But it's also like a battle, a bit of a gamble there, because Petit and Essa, if they haven't pitted, right, they're being caught by the leader who might have pitted already, or might be in that position because he's made a mistake. We're not actually sure if he has pitted. I think that's one of my pet peeves with ACC at the moment, is it doesn't show us who has gone into the pits or who has made a mandatory pit stop, or just a pit stop count in general, right? I mean, that would be great to be able to have a look. We're going to go back over to a battle between Yamas and Hooker, and we've got Yamas tucked into the slipstream, and once again going to be looking, lots of guys trying to make a look on the outside of Quarry and try and get a little bit of a cutback, which has seemed to work here. Yamas, what a run coming up. He's going to go not side by side. He's going to get a little quarter panel in there, knowing that's not a place to try and have a little move. Just going to need a little bit of a line, but can I get the move done? Coming through the cutting, good bit of driving, switching over to the heavy cam now. We'll be able to see any cutback maneuvers being attempted, but just look how narrow Bathurst is. Look at the attempts to try and find a way past. If you can get your car on the
that's Tobias Quick
out, that is Quick. Quick's made a big mistake. He's found himself into the barrier. Tires and pushing has maybe pushed too hard there, and Hooker and Yamas will continue around. I'm glad he didn't catch up anyone in him sliding off, and he's got his car into a position where it shouldn't be too impactful, but we continue to look at Yamas coming down, and Chris Hooker, who's made a mistake. He came out very wide. He's managed to get it back. Luckily, it's a part of the track where you mentioned, Jesse, if you do make a mistake, it's hard to capitalize anywhere else. Clips the wall coming out as well. Chris Hooker under a lot of pressure here from Jose Yamas as they make the run down Conrad, of course, going to be tucked into that slip. This is the great place for that blue, black, and white Porsche to be. And of course, if you get the rundown, and this is where you are, you're going to have a look. Is he going to have a look around the outside? Yamas is going to try and have a look. He's not there yet, and he doesn't get it done. It's going to be Hooker to defend again for another lap, but this is heating up quickly as these drivers get themselves closer and closer together. As we hit that 15-minute mark, I feel like if you haven't pitted, you're probably trying to extend things right now, right?
I just want to say as well, to bring to your attention, is obviously there's a battle heating up for the podium positions here. You know, there's only 3 to 4 attempts between P1, 2, and 3. It's absolutely insane what's going on right now.
Oh, bouncing off the wall. I want to know who that is. It's the yellow car, second in line there. That's the number 71. That is Isa. Isa has just bounced off the wall a little bit after Corey in between there. That's unfortunate. You see a lot of cars actually, now that I pay attention to it, there's a lot of front end damage. We saw Chris Hooker actually hit the wall coming onto the back straightaway. And I think that just highlights, it's nothing against the drivers, it highlights how difficult the conditions are here today. And these cars, again, hard to drive anyway really quickly, but in these conditions, it's an added layer of difficulty. Think of it as you know, unstoppable mode in like a video game or something. It's incredible stuff as we ride in car with Isa, who is attempting to get the overall lead away from Petit right now, as we look behind him in the absolute train of cars that it is, but only one of those right now for position. That is the car directly behind him. That was the leader for the majority of this race. That's Malinowski, who would very much, in case these guys don't want to pit, would love to get by these two, because that would just pretty much secure him the victory here, you would assume. But just as we saw with Tobias Kwekin, now dramas that have unfolded for Samir Ibrahimi, who had damage and went into pit road. He has fallen all the way down the order at the moment. As a matter of fact, big dive to the inside and a punt. It's been a punt and a couple of cars off as we have the replay. Is that Matt Samuels? Let's see. Oh, big mistake there. And he just went straight through.
He didn't hit anyone. It was absolutely he slid on through. So it looked like Petit made an exit, a mistake on the exit. He just kind of got a little bit oversteer. That's allowed Essa to slide by. And again, our lead changes up here. Petit down the road. You see him in the background there, way behind that yellow and purple Porsche. Just insane little change up there. Matt Samuels missing the braking point there, sliding through, but that's changed up. That hasn't affected the running order up at the front. Essa gets the lead, possibly with a bit of damage, like you mentioned, Jesse. Malinowski had what felt like outright pace at the start of this race. I mean, he was 8.5 seconds up the road from second place earlier on. So you've got to kind of bear that in mind. Did he go into the pits? Did he make another mistake? I mean, the front end of that Porsche behind, as we look from Zahir's car, Malinowski's Porsche does have some front end damage. So perhaps just drop down the order. Maybe none of these guys have had to go in for a pit stop. Malinowski going to be pressuring Essie here for the lead. 12 minutes left to go. This rear-facing camera showing the flames spitting up. The
Look at this, he's going for it.
It's going to go side by side. This is not the place we thought you'd make the move, but it is. Malinowski going to get the move done onto Essa. Beautiful bit of driving, not where we had expected. Will the cutback come back out? I don't think Essa expected that at all. Springer here, not in the race here for position. He's trying to tuck back, trying to get some moves going. I mean, he's risking things racing up here with the leaders right now. Malinowski, what a bit of driving to get the move done.
Wow.
Down the mountain. I'm actually shaking.
This race is fantastic, isn't it, guys? This is just...
Once again, George has made me jump up from my chair as you see Malinowski get almost sideways coming through here. It's incredible. I mean, these guys are working in millimeters. It's incredible stuff. And once again, we actually go to Tobias Kwekin, and just as the camera goes to him, he's still having problems. No doubt the tires on that car have gone off by the looks of things. But yeah, it's unfortunate for Petit here, who we feature. I thought there was a punt between Samuel and him. It turns out that wasn't true. It's just that both of them had very completely different incidents in the same corner. It looks like Petit just lit up his tires coming out of the final corner and gave up the lead to Isa, who then was overtaken by Malinowski in what can only be described as not a passing zone. But again, that's just what he wanted them to think. That's not a passing zone. Then I'll have you there then.
Pure bullying is what happened there. I mean, there's no space for cars to come by, and Malinowski just doing such great work getting that move done. I'm still a little bit in awe at where that happened. I'm very impressed with, I believe it is Springer behind here that we're looking at from S's point of view. I mean, Springer's held on to these front runners as well. He's P18. You can see it on the front indicator of his timing sheet there. So yeah, that is Springer. You see it change up. That's why I love the little details in ACC. Those little details on the window shards. You can see the position. You can see the driver's surname who's riding there. But I mean, that's P18 holding on to the pace of our leaders. And Malinowski's made the mistake. That's going to be first for Essa again. They've traded it up. And Malinowski, having made a mistake, he's touched the wall.
Oh, a big mistake.
It's a big mistake. And Essa going to take back the position in the place that he was robbed of it earlier. And Essa regains the lead down the Conrad Straight. 9 minutes left to racing now. And our lead has changed up once again. And you know what? These three drivers, and I say three because Springer's hanging on to this as well at the back as a P18 runner. These are going to close down the opportunities and allow Axel Petit, who of course is a pedigree sim racing driver, to allow him to catch back up. And I feel like we could have a three-way battle coming down again. Essa, of course, going to be trying to hold off on Malinowski, who I feel like we talked about. He does seem to have this insane pace in this Porsche Cup car. And once again, it's the mistakes that are going to cost drivers here. Consistency is going to be everything. And once again, Malinowski finds himself in a position he shouldn't be, based on his lap times and the moves that he's been pulling. But that is racing, and that's why we love it.
I have to wonder, George, how much damage Malinowski has at this moment. He didn't just touch the wall, he hit it a ton. Like, he almost knocked the wall down, if the wall could in fact be knocked down. But just by the fact that he is hanging on to Isa at the moment, that leads me to believe that it's not that severe. Either that or he's already damaged that body panel, so it doesn't really matter. This is the problem, though. This car right here, this 18th place car, as far as I understand, that's Zeman behind them, or is that Springer? That's Springer. Yeah. Indeed, Springer, my apologies. Where does he come into play? He's been incredibly charitable and nice at this point. Clearly, he has the pace. He hasn't wanted to go by these guys because obviously he knows that these are the top two guys. He's been incredibly gentlemanly, but I wonder how much that factors into the head of Malinowski. If it was me, I'd just be focused on passing Isa again, and that's not going to be a problem anymore as Springer gets it wrong and nearly goes up and over the wall on the mountain. He gets it going back the right way, but no doubt that is going to be a massive amount of damage and will certainly drop him off. These two, there's no drop off between these two, though. This is the battle for the lead with 7 minutes and change to go. This could not get any closer. This race has gone every which way except the way that I expected it to go. And he's going to have a look. Is he going to be a touch? Maybe a touch. Yes, maybe a little bit of a touch by Malinowski on Isa, but it doesn't really make any difference. Isa handles it with poise, and now they go into the final corner here, and they'll just do it all over again, truly on the back bumper every time through the final corner. Isa gets a little bit sideways, and it's going to cost him here. He's going to have to give up the outside to Malinowski. Can he make it happen through the first turn? Side by side, no. Files back in line, losing a little bit of ground. Holy cow, 6.5 minutes.
Can we just talk about that beautiful little bit of driving that went down? I mean, Malinowski, you're talking about like Springer being on his back end. How much of this is a factor? I can tell you right now, Malinowski screaming to, his race engineer, who might be just, a random person, might be his significant other. He's screaming that, back markers are racing me. I can't deal with this pressure. And just like that, he gets gifted a little bit. Springer makes a mistake, and he's allowed to fight back with Essa. But Essa Issa's parking this car on every single apex. He's struggling for some pace as well. And you can see Malinowski going to be forced to work for this. You know that he's slowed down. Springer, who had a massive incident with the wall, he's caught back up to these guys. So Issa, he's just doing the right thing. He's doing some defensive work. We saw him making an exit error earlier on. He then chose the inside line, parked it defensively, and is going to make Malinowski work as hard as he can. And once again, we're going to ride on board with a chase that could just change up at any moment. We've seen it happen here before. We've seen overtakes. We've seen mistakes. Springer back into his danger zone position. Hasn't learned from the previous incidents and hasn't been burnt enough. Is going to tuck back up. And like you said, very, very respectful driving coming out from Springer, not to try and get past who he feels like is a faster driver. He knows that racing rules to apply, is under the blue flags, and these are race leaders. Does not want to cause an incident. Of course, that is the kind of racing style that you want to see. We're going to change up and go and have a look at Samir Ibrahimi. Of course, had a little bit of a mistake. We saw him going into the pits. Currently finds himself in 15th place. So a bit of a fall down from that second place battle that was going on. So race being played just a little bit there for Ibrahimi. He's got Hammer up in front of him at number 241. He's trying to get past and obviously make his way up the field. But 4 minutes 40 to go. And definitely not a place that Samir will be happy with at this moment.
No, he certainly won't be. He did come into pit road as leader just to catch some people up. He did have some damage on the car. Judging by the way the car looks now, he did fix that, and that was the reason for the incredibly long stop. He certainly did not. His car looked crumpled in the front. Now it looks completely fine. So that's why he dropped right down the field. But this is Axel Petit, who, by the way, could benefit from a kerfuffle in front of him between the top two running cars.
I mean, Jesse, you talk about Axel Petit maybe benefiting. I mean, he's obviously had some big issues. I mean, he was running close in third there, right? And I mean, he's dropped down the order there.
Yeah, he absolutely has. He's, what is he, about 8 seconds off of Malinowski now. That's an incredible amount of time to lose. And going back to Springer, who we're looking at here from the back of Malinowski's car, he had that massive incident, and he was a long way off of these two. That just shows you what I assume newer tires or what have you is worth here. Is now we look out of the front of the car. For a second there, you could see that Issa's actually getting away ever so slightly at this moment.
Malinowski is struggling, Jesse. You can see him, like you said. I mean, he's touching curbs. He's missing braking points. He's really struggling on the exits there. And I feel like the edge of these tires' lives are on the line here. And coming down into that mountain section is just so scary to not have the grip levels that you want. And it does just allow a driver that seems to have a better handling of the car, might have managed the tires a little bit better to get away and get a run. I don't know what it's up with Chris Uka and attracting drivers that like flashing their lights at him. But Jose Lamas is going to be the next competitor to do so. Currently, that will be the battle for 4th and 5th. Samir Ibrahimi is trying to chase down on Hammer. Still hasn't managed to get the move done. And yeah, it looks like we've said, if you are kind of in the mid-pack, very, very difficult to try and get moves done. Lots of cars just, putting their racing line in front of you and putting their car in a place that you can't get by. You have to lift off, and that obviously impacts your exit to the corner, having to correct for the driver in front. So Bathurst, not an easy circuit to pass on, and definitely a difficult place to drive Porsche Cup cars on for a 75-minute race. And I feel like a lot of these guys have been trying to exploit the length of the tires. There's a car parked right before the middle of the S's, and what a place to just get on by. Ibrahimi with godlike reflexes that gets out the way unimpacted, both of them actually just getting on by. And like we said, lots of blind corners. You come around and suddenly there's a car facing the wrong direction. It's a panic moment, and just staying poised and keeping the car pointing the right direction without impacting the race, always a big plus in my mind.
It's been just a ridiculous undertaking for a lot of these guys, and what a win it would be for Issa, who I believe, George, is your countryman, is he not?
This is correct.
Oh.
South African representative. Did you just...
We're going to see it right here. We're going to see Samir Ibrahimi think about doing the overtake here and then get all sorts of sideways. Excellent save by Samir. it's just incredible stuff. He's again trying to get the what is now the 13th position. But by the way, look what we have here. Same song, different verse, it looks like, as this battle isn't over. This is coming to get the one to go, guys. This fight will continue. This is Malinowski, who has reignited his fight against Isa. He's going again to the outside here through the chase. A little touch, a little bump, nothing out of the ordinary, but can't quite get it done. Can't get the move to come off. This is indeed going to be the final lap. This is your battle for the win of the race. This is Malinowski versus Isa. Springer in the back, in the rearview mirror as pictured, is a lap down, is not a part of this, has stayed out of the way to this point. This is your race to the finish. This is going to be great. I can't pick a winner here as we get the intervals back up on the screen, just so you know how close these guys actually are. This is incredible stuff. George, I'm going to let you take it away since your countryman's in this battle.
I feel like I don't want to curse it, but I'll take over without a doubt. Malinowski here is trying to get on past Esa. Esa is planting that Porsche in the right place as we are on the final lap here, as they make their way through these sections of corners for the final time. And just, this is what we wanted to see. This is the battle that we wanted to see towards the end. And they've been knife fighting it out for what feels like an eternity. Of course, we got to see some battles on track earlier on, but Esa really seems to get a good hold and grasp of backing up Malinowski in the slower corners and getting a run out and kind of extending his space. But down the skyline, Esa's made a big mistake. Malinowski is going to come through. Esa back onto track to defend the line. I'm not quite sure if he went off track or back on track there at all, but from what we saw, it looked like Esa just went quite wide. Malinowski not managing to get the move done just yet. They're going to come through Forest's elbow and down onto the Conrad straight. It's going to be the aero battle coming
Here
down.
we go.
Of course, Springer is tucked in as well. Springer is going to be right up the back. Springer could almost bump draft Malinowski to help him get on past Esa.
Oh, he is doing
him. And Malinowski now getting a little bit of a run, a bit of a bump draft coming down. Esa holds them off. They're going to go through the chase for the final time. Inside line for Esa. Needs to defend against
Only
Malinowski.
touch.
They have come into contact. Malinowski manages to control it. Esa gets sent in the racing line. Malinowski not managing to hold on right to the end. I think the Steward is going to have a little look right at the end and just have a little look-see into there. But Esa, for now, provisionally going to cross the line as our race leader. Malinowski going to cross second there. And Axel Petit, he's kind of fallen off the pace, gives us time to breathe, but he will find a third place on the podium, get a sip of champagne, something that both JC, myself, and Simon would need. What a race coming out.
I am going to need my own bottle after that. Can you imagine that? What a heartfelt battle between Isa and Malinowski there at the end. Axel Petit's the only one in my mind who had a safe go of it. And of course, fourth place is going to be Chris Huke, who does rebound to have a great finish. So does Jose Llamas, it must be said, in the top five. Rommel in sixth place. Watching Yefanov come across seventh. Didn't talk much about him today, but that can sometimes be a good thing. Solid seventh. Tobias Queck, with all the problems he had, we saw him backwards going into Skyline, and still manages ninth, I should say, is Vindis. 10th, Christian Wheel will come home. 11th, we got Jansky. 12th for Wolf Batushka. 13th for Samir Ibrahimi. He does get around Hammer. And we are actually watching 11th place. Those haven't crossed the line, and there they are, official. Jansky and then Matushka for 11th and 12th, respectively. And of course, Ibrahimi, Hammer, Springer, Zeman, Worst, and Magazi have all crossed the line as well. Go to the next nearest car that hasn't. It's going to be Nicholas Rage, who that car is beaten and battered and looks like it's off the pace. Is he even going to...
a Porsche?
Well, it's one way or another. It started off life as a Volkswagen, and it's going to come across the line here. Really slowly, I might add.
It's limping.
He might be pushing that car. It might be a pedal car, as now he speeds up to cross the line. Wonder if maybe there's a bit of a fuel sort of situation there. But here is your top 21 finishers. The South African driver, Issa, wins it. And George, I'm going to hand it off to you because I'm sure you're excited.
I am super excited. I'm also super excited. You know, when I make predictions here at RLM, Simon, I know, you know, 6th place driver, people think, what is George thinking, choosing Issa as a potential race winner? I'm just smiling because that never happens, and I'm just really proud. Really great race coming out from everyone, really. For me, Porsche Cup car race at Bathurst has to happen again. And if 100%. You guys want to increase the drivers and we have 50 cars here, I'm not going to be sad. Like, I would not be sad if you decided we're going with more cars. I mean, 30 cars, these guys did an incredible job. I just want to extend my congratulations to everyone in this grid. Phenomenal to get to be a part of the commentary team that gets to, you know, broadcast races like these. Really great to get to know the drivers and see them do their bits on the track. From my end, phenomenal race. I had such a blast, and yeah, I haven't had a great week on my end, and I needed a pick me up. This was definitely it.
Yeah, 100%. This was absolutely awesome. So, I mean, wow, what can we say? I mean, the race from the get-go was just been absolutely fantastic. Non-stop action right across the grid, you know, for that whole 75-minute race. I mean, yeah, absolutely fantastic, wasn't it? That said, I mean, obviously, thanks for all the comments, guys. You know, people saying great commentary there. So, yeah, well done to Jesse and George as well for your commentating today. It's been absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I think we're all just blown away by this, aren't we? We're speechless. Just that last battle to the very end was just, yeah, insane. But yeah, wow. But again, yeah, thanks everyone for obviously the follows, subscribing. Just to let you know, obviously, if you are an Amazon Prime customer, you can subscribe to us for free. Just literally go to the top of the right video, click subscribe, scroll down a bit, and you'll see the Prime section there, and you can subscribe to us for free. And that obviously helps pay towards our server costs and things like that. But anyway, when are we next back? Actually, that's the next question. I think we're actually not back until not this Friday, next Friday with our endurance championship. So we've got 50 cars on the grid with teams of 2. We're running 3 classes, so we've got Pro-Am and Am drivers in this class, and we are at Spa. So that's a 2-hour race. That is not this Friday, but the Friday afterwards. But we will be definitely looking to do something else to fill the gaps in between these bi-weekly championships. But anyway, thanks everyone for coming along to watch the stream. It's been absolutely awesome. Thanks Jesse, thanks George for your awesome commentary. Obviously, thanks to the live stewardess in the background there. I mean, they didn't really have to have much work to be doing. I mean, this is probably about 2 or 3 incidents we saw throughout that stream. Apart from that, I mean, it's just been an absolutely fantastic race, and we definitely will be doing some more Porsche Cup stuff for sure. So yeah, do stay tuned for that one, guys. Otherwise, thanks very much, and we will see you again in a fortnight almost. So good night.